If you're looking for ways to improve your customer service offline and online, you're in the right place. I'm here with Robert Crutchfield from Crutchfield Eats Podcast. Robert, why should restaurant owners make customer service a priority?
One of the things they talk about on the show Bar Rescue, for instance, is points of differentiation. There's only so many different ways to cook a steak. There's only so many different ways to make a burger. There's only, particularly in a place like Katy, where I'm at, where you have literally hundreds of restaurants competing against each other. That begs the question, how do you compete? And customer service is one of the big ways that you can is to answer the question of how do you compete. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, it has to do with engagement. People are more likely to come to your restaurant and continue to come to your restaurant if they feel a part of your restaurant's family, if they feel connected, if they feel appreciated. And customer service is the vehicle through which you create that connection. The other thing, and what's interesting, is it plays into the whole experience angle of it. People, to a large extent, the reason they go out to a restaurant is not just to answer the simple need of food and needing to eat. They go to a restaurant because they want an experience. They want, even if that experience is a 30, 40-minute respite from their routine at the office. What's interesting is Mandy Naglich, who is a taste expert out of New York State. One of the things that Mandy Naglich says is in her book on the topic, she points out that the elements of the experience actually affect how the food tastes. So by using good customer service and creating that experience, you actually make your food taste better. And when it comes to a restaurant, what's more the point than your food?
Absolutely. I know if I have a bad experience, I'm likely not going to go back again. So you're spot on. So, what's like the biggest mistake you see restaurant owners make all the time that they need to fix?
I don't know if it's the biggest mistake, but it's a big mistake. And that is to quit learning and quit training. Oh my God, look at what's happened over the last few years with the pandemic and dining rooms open, dining rooms closed, upgraded sanitation requirements, commodity prices through the roof. In this business, trends are always changing, styles are always changing. Uh, Heaven forbid you get caught with a cuisine that's 10 years out of date. Or look at it from the competitive angle. You may have the best pizza restaurant in your community until four other pizza restaurants move into that community. So you always have to be keeping up on everything from food styles and food trends to, especially if it's your restaurant, you got to keep up with things like changes in employment and tax law. So, and I don't want to be remiss in not recognizing that restaurant operators, whether they be owners or managers, are exceedingly busy. You're talking about a 70, 80-hour a week job. I get that. But the fact that I get that doesn't change the reality. And the other side of it is, like I say, you can't stop training. Education experts will tell us that out of what you learn this year, you're going to forget half of it by next year. Knowledge and skills by their nature degrade over time. And that's before you get into all the same kind of changes like I was talking about from the owner standpoint. Chef Hyken, who is a uber big customer service expert in his own right, probably one of the top 10 in the country, was reminding me yesterday what he always says about how training is not something you've done, it's something you do. So you always have to be refreshing that training. You always have to be expanding that training. If not, it could be a simple matter of where's your next front end manager going to come from? If you're not, as I put it, overtraining your people, especially the people who've been around for a while, where does your next head chef comes from? Where does your next general GM come from? Where does your next front end manager come from? If you're not constantly engaged in training and developing your people, the problem you see in line management, even if line management happens to be the owner of the restaurant, because you're talking about some of the wonderful independent mom and pop restaurants we have in this country. One of the things, I mean, you get caught in this idea. I mean, profits are always important, but it's almost like training gets devalued. It's always something that we'll do it later. Well, you do it later, and all of a sudden you're 3 trends behind.
So we talked about in the restaurant. What about online? Because customer service online, I mean, just as important today as what's happening in the restaurant. I mean, people make decisions where they're going, don't they? I mean,
Sure.
what should restaurant owners be thinking about?
Well, what I look to, as you can imagine, uh, the restaurants I know uh, best, especially from a customer's perspective, which is what we should always be looking at, are the restaurants that make up the very vibrant restaurant community I'm lucky to have here locally. And drawing from their example in particular, the biggest thing I see online is the importance of the operator, the owner, the general manager, however be structured, especially in local independent mom and pop type restaurants, is that the operator has to be the face of the restaurant. There's a restaurant owner here locally that he's been on his honeymoon the last week, which we're all very happy with him about. But he's been posting pictures of his honeymoon the whole time he's been gone. How and that goes back to what I was talking about with the engagement and the feeling of being part of the restaurant's family. And everybody talks about how bad things were for restaurants during the pandemic, and they were bad. I'm not going to say they're not. Think about this. This particular restaurant owner at the beginning of the pandemic was in a 450 to 500 square foot rented space next to a gas station along a freeway here locally. Today, that same restaurant, just a couple, 3 years later, is in its own standalone 4,500 square foot location that he and his father / co-owner now own. Beyond that, they just reopened a different concept, a Detroit style pizza concept in a completely retrofitted space. So they, in large part, I believe, because of the way they were on, the way he just pounds social media, and he builds that social media network, and their logo is literally a cartoon version of this guy. I mean, he is the face of that restaurant to the extreme. And I think that's the thing you have to do online. so much of what you see online, whether it's be restaurants or anything else, it's homogenous. Restaurant A might as well be restaurant B. Picture of the outside. You click on the tab, you get the menu. So what is and the thing of it is, uh, as you know, I actually finished a certification in social media marketing over this past weekend, and I did that even as a restaurant slash food slash customer service expert because of how big a factor social media is becoming in things like social media. Social media used to be a toy. Nowadays, people are hopping on Facebook, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, et al., and they're expecting to do more than just look at pictures of your pretty food. They're looking to get redress over how long they had to wait for a table last time they went to your restaurant. So I think that it's kind of a two-sided thing. It's restaurant owners need to, in particular, recognize the increased importance of social media. But even more than that, I think the more important thing is for the operator to, again, I want to pay tribute to how hard they work and the hours these people put in. But I think that we still, uh, I have 5 or 6 people that are local to me that are doing exactly what I say, and they're some of the most successful uh, independent operators that we have in our community. And I think that the aggressiveness with which they do exactly what I'm saying in the sense of being the face of their restaurant publicly, well beyond their own walls through the tools that social media gives us, I think that's got a lot to do with their success.
Yeah. Robert, a lot of good tips. If you were to give an owner one baby step they could take today, just one baby step to improve their customer service, what would it be?
I think the one baby step I would give people, and this one's more of a don't rather than a do, uh, goes back to a saying I've done many times over the years. We talk about you should praise in public and criticize in private. To the extent your customers know, there should be this common conception that every member of your team is the best in the business. And you don't want to do anything that detracts from that. You don't want to criticize one of your people in the dining room. You don't want to be criticizing somebody on your line so loud the people in the dining room can hear. As far as the customer is concerned, everybody you got is the best in the business, and that wall needs to not be broken. And it's more than that. Uh, you shouldn't let your servers have loud, idle conversations in the dining room, for instance. And that all goes back to the whole experience thing. You don't want to have loud disputes of any sort that you can prevent in your restaurant because it detracts enormously from the experience. As we were talking about uh, earlier, uh, there are experts that'll tell you, and your customers will tell you with your feet, that if you detract from the experience, you actually detract from the taste and the satisfaction level of the food.
Robert, this has been fabulous. If people want to find you online, where should they go?
Is my podcast, Crutchfield Cooks the podcast, is fairly well established. I've also got in development some more one-on-one type customer service consulting. That's in the future. That's in development. I don't mind sharing because I've shared public before. I am dealing with some health issues at the moment, so that schedule is a little up in the air depending on how my health issues progress. The best way to find me currently is at my podcast website at www.learnmoreeatbetter.com.